with Anna Schleisman and meteorologist Henry Blakes. Your first news of the night starts right now on West Dakota Fox News at 9.
Well, a community broken and scarred, trying to pick up the pieces after losing the owner and 3 employees of RJR Maintenance and Management in Mandan. Jordan Verdadero spoke with the Bismarck Community Church pastor who led the joint memorial service.
Shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain anymore, for the former things have passed away. And he who is seated on the throne said, Behold, I am making all things new.
Pastor Jared Lee says homicides aren't new, but a homicide like this in Mandan is.
I was a little bit scared, honestly, because of the weight and the significance of such a tragedy. I was a little bit scared about, how am I going to address that? How am I going to speak into that?
Lee says he wanted to speak his truth of the Bible for the 600 people who attended.
These terrible, terrible things happen. And it's important that we wrestle with, where is God? How does a good God reconcile with an event like that?
Lee said he didn't want to sugarcoat anything.
The reality of the fall, the Bible teaches about that, and we are all messed up, and because we're messed up, all these terrible things enter into the world and into our experience.
But Lee said even through all the tragedy, the Bible is culminating into something good.
The dwelling place of God is with man. He will dwell with them, and they will be his people, and God himself will be with them as their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more.
In Bismarck, I'm Jordan Verdadero reporting for your news leader.
Lee also said we need to look beyond the safety of Bismarck and Mandan for our hope. Well, Chad Isaac's preliminary hearing is scheduled for May 14th. He's charged with 4 counts for those murders, as well as burglary, concealment within a vehicle, and unauthorized use of a vehicle. And as of today, records show Isaac does not have an attorney or public defender. He appeared with counsel during his initial appearance. Isaac is held at the Burley Morton Detention Center on a $1 million cash bond. Well, it's also been a difficult week weather-wise. What's in store for our weekend here, Henry?
Hey, with the way things are looking right now, we still got some light snow showers continuing across the southern and eastern first warn viewing area. Mostly just light flurries for the most part, but a little bit more moderate the farther you go east into Grand Forks and far, kind of in between Jamestown surrounding areas. But for the moment, nothing major is expected. And as far as the wet weather, that is going to gradually dissipate after midnight as the storm system finally pushes east of our viewing area. Our temperatures right now are in the 30s, 36 for Bismarck, 41 for Williston because you had sunshine today and no snow. Dickinson, 39 degrees, Minot 34, 29 in Jamestown. That north wind has let up considerably, so we're talking about 5 to 15 mile per hour sustained wind for now and continuing into the overnight hours. As I mentioned, and it looks like those snow chances will diminish after midnight. Otherwise, weekend looking pretty good for most of us. So I'll let you know more later on.
Sounds good, Henry. Well, President Trump wants to release detained immigrants in so-called sanctuary cities. In a tweet today, he blamed it on Democrats, who he says, quote, are unwilling to change our very dangerous immigration laws. But recently, the Trump administration said they were no longer pursuing such a plan, calling into question the legality of it. After then Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen resisted the president's push for the plan, and the DHS legal team's analysis eventually killed it. Well, the president also said he plans to call more troops to the southern border. Today, Acting Defense Secretary Patrick Shanahan says though the Pentagon has not received a formal request for this additional support, he expects the Defense Department will provide it. But he wouldn't elaborate on what that support would consist of. A Pentagon spokesperson says the military currently has about 3,000 active duty and 2,000 National Guard members assisting in the border effort. Well, today is also the day that the U.S. transgender military ban takes effect. 2 years after President Trump tweeted that the country cannot be burdened with the tremendous medical costs and disruption of transgender issues. So military members must now adhere to their birth sex, with some exceptions, including gender dysphoria. Well, Sudanese dictator Omar al-Bashir has been ousted. He's wanted by the International Criminal Court for alleged war crimes and crimes against humanity. Sudan says they'll prosecute him but won't hand him over. The Military Transitional Council has taken over Sudan in the meantime, but activists are demanding that power be handed over to a civilian government.
We will only be caretakers. We will not intervene. We will keep our distance.
The transition could take 2 years or possibly less if there is, quote, no chaos. North Dakota's oil production suffered a bit of frostbite in February. The industry dropped about 60,000 barrels a day, according to Mineral Resources Director Lynn Helms. John Salling tells us more about the challenges facing the industry.
Helms says this is the biggest drop in oil production since December 2016.
5% is significant, but in terms of revenues and all of that, oil prices actually increased more rapidly than production dropped.
Regulators warn North Dakota's oil industry faces a different threat as well. A bill working its way through the Washington State Senate would require that oil offloaded from trains in the state be modified to be less volatile. The measure would give companies a 2-year window to adjust.
The fact is that the vapor pressure limit they've set would devalue the crude oil so badly that all it's really going to do is give them a 2-year window to find a new market.
The bill states that Bakken crude is too volatile and that this would make it safer to transport. Regulators say that's just not true. In Bismarck, I'm John Salling for your news leader.
Natural gas production also saw a significant drop in February. And Senator John Hoeven says he's working with Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue to help producers dealing with low prices and natural disasters. Hoeven says farmers are struggling while the Trump administration's trade negotiations with other countries like China drag on.
Done. And in the meantime, let's get as many sales as we can for our producers.
Hoeven says he's also working to secure strong crop insurance and loan programs through the federal government. In the meantime, the USDA's Farm Service Agency has increased loan limits for farmers and ranchers. This raised guaranteed operation and ownership loans to $1.75 million, direct operating loans to $400,000, and direct ownership loans to $600,000. FSA also now allows farm ownership and operating micro loans at $50,000 each. Producers who previously received debt forgiveness can now apply for emergency loans. And beginning and socially disadvantaged producers can now receive up to a 95% loan guarantee. And the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development has awarded more than $15.6 million to support affordable quality housing in North Dakota. Nearly $4 million for the Community Development Block Grant, $3 million each for the Home Program and Housing Trust Fund, and over $465,000 for Emergency Solutions Grants. Well, the Public Housing Capital Fund also gets a boost that will be dispersed to various housing authorities. Over $975,000 for Fargo, nearly $658,000 for Burleigh County, and $515,000 for Minot, and over $213,000 for the city of Williston, just to name a few. Well, the school boards from Williston and surrounding Williams County met with Governor Burgum and legislators to discuss how to fix the overcrowding issue at their schools after 3 bond votes to build new schools were rejected in the past 12 months. Williston District 1 School Board President Joanna Baltus says property taxes can't fund Williston schools like it does elsewhere in the state. She also wants to work together with District 8 to expand Williston High School over building a new one.
It's going to take you guys 5 years to get to the point where you can levy fully operationally. And even then, with the number of students that you have, you may be looking at 200 to 300 high school students. There's no way that that can compare to the opportunities that your students have already had for decades.
District 8 is trying to educate voters before a May 14th bond vote, which could build the first high school in that district. Well, studies show North Dakota is ranked #1 in decreasing heart disease deaths. CHI St. Alexius in Bismarck attributes this to more people exercising. Some health professionals say it's a form of medicine, as it may reduce chances of heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, and other heart-related conditions.
I think one of the reasons why heart disease is decline in North Dakota is a lot of people really taking the preventative approach, taking that more serious, as well as trying to make lifestyle changes.
Reson says more parents are encouraging their children to get 60 minutes of physical activity a day and eat healthier snacks like fruits and vegetables. Congressman Kelly Armstrong is working to ensure recovery housing is operated efficiently and ethically. He submitted a bipartisan letter with California Democrat Representative Harley Ruda to urge U.S. health officials to consult local government on best practices for addiction treatment. Ruda says unethical sober homes prey on the vulnerable population, corrupting a service that's meant to support, treat, and guide. Armstrong says the opioid epidemic doesn't discriminate and everyone deserves a safe, reliable recovery environment. Well, the topic of missing and murdered Indigenous women has been top of mind in North Dakota after the deaths of Olivia Lone Bear and Savannah Graywind. Next week, the Minot State Concert Choir will perform a concert to bring a voice to this issue. Sights, sounds, and emotions will come together in Not One Sparrow is Forgotten to tell the story of injustices against missing and murdered Indigenous women in the state and the nation.
People are tired. They're tired of this happening. They're tired of their people disappearing. So that's why we do this.
The free concert will be at Ann Nicole Nelson Hall on Monday at 7:30 p.m. Well, we saw this stunning photo of the black hole, but what about the people behind the telescopes?
And in the Williston area, you've had sunshine for today. That's why you reached the 40s. But will the weekend weather be just as nice? Well, stay tuned. I'll have your forecast coming up.
The North Dakota House joined the Senate in overriding Governor Burgum's veto of a bill that he has called legislative overreach. The bill defines the authority of a group of legislators known as the budget section.
The idea was, the Chief Justice said in his dissenting opinion that if the legislature set in certain parameters or standards, that would work for the budget section, and that's what we did.
Governor Burgum released a statement after the veto saying what's clear in the Constitution, and the Attorney General agrees, is that the authority to carry out that spending and meet those conditions rests with the executive branch, not a mini legislature. Well, along with the two bills he vetoed, Governor Burgum has signed 377 bills this session. Last night, he signed several we've been following. One, allowing loved ones to monitor nursing home residents. Another, to prohibit cyberbullying at school. And the bill allowing courts to terminate parental rights of a convicted rapist if that act results in the birth of a child. Courts have discretion in cases of spousal rape. Well, Burgum also signed a bill making North Dakota the first state to have a uniform cybersecurity program across all aspects of state government. He says it will better protect the state's 250,000 plus users and more than 400 groups from cyber attacks. Well, tax day is almost here, and those who work gig jobs are having a tough time filing. Americans working temporary and flexible jobs through app-based companies like Uber or the dog walking site Wag, or rent their places on Airbnb, is growing. But experts say the tax code is still behind the times.
Gig workers, our tax system was designed for traditional employees.
South Dakota Senator John Thune introduced the new Gig Act to simplify the tax process for gig workers by reclassifying them and lowering the reporting threshold. A Treasury Department report found $2.7 billion in potentially underreported tax payments by gig workers between 2012 and 2015. One of the most popular gig companies, Uber, filed to go public with the New York Stock Exchange today. It's coming off of a nearly $2 billion loss in 2018, but the CEO hopes investors look at the fact that it's a mature company that operates in dozens of countries. Well, this week, the first picture of the black hole was revealed. But who's behind it? Meet Katie Bauman. She's the MIT graduate who helped create the algorithm used by the telescopes to capture the image. The 29-year-old began making the computer program 3 years ago while in school. The humble Earthling insists everyone on the team helped her and deserves equal credit for the out-of-this-world accomplishment. And on that team was Dr. Terry Pilling, a professor at the University of Mary. He also helped write the software for the James Clerk Maxwell Telescope in Mauna Kea, Hawaii in the early 2000s. It was one of the facilities that worked together to record the image of Pauhai. He says this work is incredibly rewarding.
See your software in action. The astronomer will say, I want to look at this one thing. They'll push a few buttons and all of a sudden the whole building moves, and you're partly the reason why that's happening. And it's really, that's why engineers do what they do.
Dr. Pilling is the Director of Engineering at UMary, which will be breaking ground on a new engineering facility in the next couple of months. Well, are the skies clear enough to see the stars tonight, Henry?
It doesn't look that way. We got the cloud cover out there right now and still look at some snow showers across south central and eastern North Dakota. The good news is that it's gradually going to come to an end after midnight. Additional accumulation isn't really expected in the first warm viewing area, but some areas of reduced visibility and some slick roads are still going to be a likelihood if you're heading east into Fargo and Grand Forks. Otherwise, the rest of the region is looking rather dry and nice for the moment. In fact, that low pressure is well out of here. High pressure is going to gradually push a little north and east tomorrow. That's going to help stabilize our atmosphere a little bit more and change our wind direction. But for right now, things aren't nearly as bad as they were this time yesterday, let alone this morning. Looking at your weather in motion, high pressure for tonight pushes to the north. We start to see decreasing cloud cover for your Saturday, so that means we're going to have more sunshine. So the sunshine for Saturday is not just going to be limited to Montana and northwestern North Dakota like it was today. In fact, we're going to have widespread sunshine across not just the first warm viewing area, but much of North and South Dakota. Our highs for today, not that high for Jamestown, only 31. We know why, the snow and the cloud cover. Bismarck, 42 at the airport, 48 for the high in Minot, 45 for Dickinson, 51 in Williston for today. So we're still a little cooler than normal, but gradually our temperatures will warm up over the next several days. Right now, temperatures mostly in the 30s and 40s, still 29 in Jamestown. Wind, thankfully, has let up. So north wind for now, 5 to 15 miles per hour. That's actually going to continue overnight. So blustery conditions are not really expected. Your Saturday forecast, we're talking about temperatures mostly in the 20s as we wake up in the morning, maybe a few teens across the far south, so nothing terrible. Light wind mostly out of the west, then becoming more southerly tomorrow afternoon. That's due to that high pressure to our south. Notice little, if any, cloud cover expected. Temperatures, that's going to allow us to warm up. Lots of snow melt going to be occurring as well. So highs for tomorrow mostly in the 40s and 50s across our viewing area. Tonight, 20s likely. Remember, the south central and eastern regions, snow chances gradually ending after midnight from west to east. Elsewhere, we're talking about partly cloudy to mostly cloudy sky. That northwest wind 5 to 15. Light wind tomorrow becoming southerly 5 to 10 with highs nearing 50 degrees and increasing sunshine. May see a little bit of cloud cover the second half of the day on Saturday for the west, but it's still going to be a rather nice day. Looking at the next 7 days, we are talking about some breezy conditions for Sunday across the west, the far west at that. Highway 85 into Montana, maybe some light rain showers the second half of your Sunday. Otherwise, we will have several chances of showers throughout next week, but thankfully nothing major is expected.
Thanks, Henry. Well, the Mall of America was not a fun place to be today. Details when we come back. A protester reportedly tried to set himself on fire at the White House this afternoon. An unidentified man set his jacket on fire on the north lawn. Secret Service agents responding to the scene extinguished the flames. The White House was put on a partial lockdown. No word on the man's identity or condition at this time. A 36-year-old Ward County man is accused of causing an explosion in a ditch off 55th Street Northeast in Minot that started a fire. Ward County deputies charged Patrick Wagner with endangering by explosion and possession of a bomb. Investigators say a deputy on patrol saw the fire just before 5:30 yesterday evening. They say no one was hurt. Well, the North Dakota Supreme Court has denied the appeal for a man serving life without parole for the gang-related shooting death of Cheryl Tendeland in 1995 when he was 16 years old. A state law was passed in 2017 that bans these sentences for juveniles. So Barry Garcia argued he was entitled to a new trial and a reduced sentence. Justices say the law applied only to cases after the law was passed. And a man is in custody in Minnesota after he reportedly threw a child from a balcony at the Mall of America today. Witnesses say a woman screamed that someone threw or pushed her child from the third floor. The 24-year-old male suspect tried to get away but was arrested. According to police, the victim is 5 years old and has significant injuries. They do not believe the man is related to the victim. When responding to a call, police often have no idea what's awaiting them, but sometimes it's something humorous. An Oregon woman called 911 saying a burglar was locked in her bathroom and she could see shadows moving under the door. Deputies surrounded the home, brought in a canine, and finally went in with guns drawn. After they breached the bathroom door, they found a Roomba and a thoroughly vacuumed floor. And police in New York released these images of a crash site for which a spider is to blame. According to police, the woman driving panicked after spotting a spider near her, lost control and slammed into a stone barrier, injuring her leg. They published the photos online to highlight the need to overcome fears while behind the wheel and to pull over to a safe place if drivers need to compose themselves. Lives depend on it. Well, surprise visits are the best kind. A heartwarming reunion next. Two children run into the arms of their father, a U.S. Navy officer who surprised them on Wednesday. Jacob Stock has been stationed in Bahrain for much of the past year. When granted leave, he wanted to make his return extra special. He popped out on stage during a school assembly where his kids, Andrew and Eva, burst into tears as they hugged him. The reunion, an emotional moment for everyone watching. I love stories like those, Henry.
As do I. And we love good stories like that and stories about good weather as well, especially after all the snow most of us had. Now, those areas that had snow today and last night, you may be waking up to some fog in the morning. That's to be expected. But temperature-wise, we will be in the 20s, 40s, and 50s expected over the weekend. Maybe a few showers across the west for Sunday. Otherwise, no real reason to cancel your plans. Just be mindful that it might be a bit breezy on Sunday.
All right, well, that is pretty good news. Have a good night.